Okay, it's 7 o'clock, 7:01 actually, so we're gonna get started. This is the Tuesday, September 22nd meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Shrewsbury Board of Selectmen will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. All meetings and hearings listed on the agenda will also be done so through remote participation. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.shrewsburyma.gov/coronavirus. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so by visiting www.shrewsburymediaconnection.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. To participate in the public portion of this meeting, dial 1-636-495-1574 and enter the following PIN, 603-591-308#. Please mute your device until the chair of the Board of Selectmen addresses your agenda item or opens the meeting to public comment. As a preliminary matter, this is Beth Cassavant, Chair. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. John LeBeau.
Present.
Morris DiPaolo. You have to use *6 if you're on your phone, Mo. John Samia.
Present.
So I know that Mo is having some connectivity issues, so he will be joining us again shortly. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Mizikar.
Present.
Kristen Loss.
Present.
Valerie Clemmy. I know Valerie's here. Holly Luck.
Present.
Keith Baldinger.
Present.
Kevin Anderson.
Present.
Patrick Collins.
Present.
Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Christopher Mena.
Present.
Justine Snyder.
Present.
Patrick Pitney.
Present.
Jeff McElvery.
Present.
Joe Morrow. Kevin Griffin. Matt Salad.
Present.
Neil Joyce.
Present.
This open meeting of the Board of Selectmen is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded, so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen is convening by Google Meet as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each board member or staff member who has the lead role for this particular item or guest speaker associated with the item on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members first and then to staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comments or questions. I will then call upon members to offer a motion and then for a second. Please hold your name until called. Further, please remember to mute and unmute your phone by pressing *6 or mute your computer when you are not speaking so as to not trigger your camera feed by background noise. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commenters, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. For any response, please wait until you're called upon and the chair yields the floor to you. State your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. That brings us to item number 1 on the agenda this evening, and that is to approve bills, payrolls, and warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. There's no further discussion. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
I'm not sure if Mr. DiPaolo was able to come back on. I know he's having trouble with the phone speaker and the mic. Oh, all right. We'll hold off for that for right now. We'll just vote the 3 of us. So Ms. Cassavant, aye. Item number 2 is to approve the minutes of September 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. No further discussion. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo? Myself, aye. Item number 3 is announcements and reports. Are there any announcements or reports this evening? Okay, I'm not seeing anything from board members. I have one announcement. This morning, I received an email that was then shared by the manager's office with the rest of the board. A letter from Ron Rosen, Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, informing us of his resignation. Although this won't appear on correspondence because it was received after the posting deadline, I did want to just bring this up in announcements so that we are able to take this time between now and our next meeting, which isn't until October 13th, to post the vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals so that interested members of the public can send letters of interest and that we can work on getting that vacancy filled as soon as possible. And I'd like to thank Mr. Rosen for his service to the town. I think he spent over 2 decades on the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if there's no other announcements, I'll move on to item number 4, which is the town manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Provide a couple updates in the town manager's report, and then I'll move into the regular COVID-19 update. First and foremost, as everyone can feel when they head outside in the morning, as they say, winter is coming. Pleased to report that we've secured our winter rock salt bids for the upcoming season through the consortium with towns in the region that Shrewsbury manages. And we received a 3 1/8% reduction over last year at $46.50 a ton versus $48 a ton. So thanks to Nick Rapepta, Highway Division Manager, for managing that process on behalf of several towns in the region. A couple of updates from the water department. Our hexavalent chromium removal pilot study and system is currently up and operating at the water treatment plant. We will keep the board updated on that. This is a roughly 4 to 6 month process, and we're happy that it's finally underway in the new treatment plant, and we're happy to share results as soon as we start to get them in. Also from the water division, water and sewer division, water main flushing, unidirectional flushing program will resume later this week. And we've had a lot of success with that program in the spring, and looking forward to wrapping up several additional zones before it gets too cold to be able to do so. On the financial side of things, I wanted to provide an update to the Board of Selectmen. As you've likely seen in your emails, the state has provided the back side of the cherry sheet, or the assessments and charges. Those charges are roughly $19,000 less than we estimated in the master balance sheet that we took to town meeting, and we'll be able to make staff level adjustments without having to go to town meeting in order to set the tax rate. So that's good news that finances are stable, and we're in a good position with regards to that. Keeping on the financial front, As the board knows, we're currently in the process of developing a 5-year financial outlook. I just wanted to share some preliminary concerns with the FY22 state aid levels. More and more information comes out. Massachusetts is no longer the highest unemployment rate, but we still remain near the top of that unenviable list. And we continue to see revenue reports from private nonprofit think tanks and other entities that estimate that state revenues will still be off by about $5 billion for the calendar year and into fiscal year, the end of fiscal year 21. I have significant concern that that will impact state aid. The state did a wonderful job. The administration did a wonderful job in advocating for municipalities, as the lieutenant governor and the governor always do, and provided level funding state aid for fiscal year 21. I honestly don't know how they do that again in fiscal year 22. $5 billion is obviously a lot of money, and in order not to sacrifice any single programs, there's going to have to be sacrifice in many areas of the state budget, at least from my perspective. And I think that's going to challenge our FY22 budget process. So we'll certainly stay in tune with Senator Moore and Representative Kane, but I just wanted to share that with the board at this time. And finally, board members, which I've shared in the past, one of my favorite public policy areas, the topic of Halloween has come up many times this week. Residents looking for guidance from the town as to what we are going to do about Halloween and COVID-19. So I'll just remind everyone that the town does not regulate Halloween in any way. And residents are free to make their own decisions, just like any inclement weather that may occur as they have in years past. It is my understanding that this public policy area may be under consideration at the state, and they may be providing some guidance. I'm sure there'll be public health guidance, all joking aside, of how to keep your family safe and healthy, but the town of Shrewsbury will not be making a call on a go or no go for trick-or-treating. So with that, I will move over into the COVID-19 update for this meeting. I'm going to share my screen. So since your last meeting on September 8th, so from September 9th through the 22nd, the total number of COVID-19 cases in the community has risen to 392 positive cases, which is an increase of 12 from the last Board of Selectmen's meeting. I inaccurately reported 375 total cases last meeting. The actual total is actually 380, so I apologize for that error. Less than one case per day, which is good, but we're in the top aspect of the trend that we've seen over the summer months and as we move into fall. So just ask everyone to keep their diligence, and we'll provide the town with the weekly updates on Thursday, as we have been for quite some time now. Good news, no change in deaths that have been identified. It's been over 3 months now since any deaths have been identified from COVID-19. We are making a change to the staffing levels at the town hall. So on October 5th, we're welcoming and encouraging all staff members to come back. The minimum requirement for staff members, rather than being on site and off site 50% of the time, we'll encourage individuals to be back 7 or 8 days out of a 10-day cycle. But staff members are free to be in the building conducting their work on site 100% of the time. Those final decisions will be made at the department head level as to how their staffing will work. We are going to keep everything for the public to be open by appointment only. That is because, and with the only exception of early voting will occur for several weeks in October, weekdays and weekends. And given that additional volume of individuals in the building and kind of the unpredictability of that, we're going to keep all other town business open by appointment only. So That's the end of my COVID-19 update. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and would turn it back over to the chair.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. LeBeau?
I just want to mention, I believe, relative to Halloween, I believe actually the US CDC released guidelines today relative to Halloween, and I'll send them over to you, Mr. Mizigar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LeBeau.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Samia?
I just asked the town manager a couple quick questions, just follow up on his report.
Sure.
So through you to him. Kevin, the couple town meetings ago, we had one of those advisory votes related to hex chrome. Will we post the beginning of the pilot study, what you're doing now, and the results on the website in response to what we've been asked to do a couple years ago?
Yeah, we will absolutely get those updates. They're not there now, but we'll work on those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then one other quick question in terms of trends. I know the fiscal year's early, but how are we doing on receipts?
It's really kind of way too early to tell. The state has committed to releasing their aid to us normally. We are receiving that. Other local receipts are kind of normal for this time of year, but the big one obviously that everyone knows is motor vehicle excise doesn't come into play until January, February timeframe. So nothing super surprising at this point in the game, but way too early to see if there's any trends coming at us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. We're going to move on to item number 6, which is a 7:05 public hearing with Christopher Maina, town moderator, to consider and possibly act on a quorum level adjustment for town meeting quorum requirements for the September 29th, 2020 special town meeting pursuant to Section 7 of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2020. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome Mr. Maina to our meeting. And just for discussion purposes, Mr. Mizicar, did you want to provide any background on this?
Sure, thank you. So as you cited, we have the opportunity through the special acts that the legislature passed and governor signed in the spring to reduce the quorum the whole way down to 10% of the originally required quorum, which is 121 individuals for our 240 member representative town meeting. And I'll just remind board members of a couple other things as you consider this vote tonight. First, as you all know, normally special town meetings have a little bit lower attendance than the annual town meeting. This year's annual town meeting, which was outside in the tent on the lawn at Oak Middle School, we had 155 town meeting members in attendance. Prior to that meeting, you reduced the quorum down to 61 or 50% of the original quorum requirement. So we're just looking for that conversation this evening with a board vote and confirmation or affirmation by the moderator if he's willing to do so.
Okay, very good. So board members, any comments or thoughts? I know that we are kind of looking at 81 as a starting point of our discussion, just based on the information in our drive, which would be reducing the regular quorum by 1/3.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Samia?
I'm fine with it. I think 81's a good number. It's the number that I was comfortable with for our annual town meeting. A lot shorter agenda for this upcoming special, but I think it's a number that provides a balance and ensures, albeit at a lower level, representation of all the precincts. So I'm comfortable with 81. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. LeBeau.
I can live with 81. I mean, I spoke when we did this the last time, and I indicated I preferred even a lower number. In an abundance of caution. Particularly this time we will be, granted it's expected to be a much shorter meeting. It will be inside, not outside, but I'm not going to pound on the table. I can live with 81 if that's the decision of a majority of the board. I certainly would support that.
I think that Mr. DiPaolo was able to join us. I'm not sure.
Madam Chair?
Oh,
Mr.
there he is.
DiPaolo, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here for a moment. I'm good with 81.
Okay. So I think before we go any further, I just wanted to talk a couple of minutes about some of the guidelines that we're following, the safety protocols that make me comfortable with an indoor meeting and also with 81 as the quorum. And I know that similar to the work that was done for the annual town meeting, there is a working group of town staff that is meeting regularly to plan for this special town meeting. And I'm not sure, Mr. Mizikar, if you would like to just say a few words about the safety guidelines that we are following for this.
Sure, I would be happy to. As baseline precautions, I will just note that although our gathering will exceed the state limitations on total size, we have an exemption to do legislative work of a municipality. Further, when we're in attendance, all individuals will be required to wear a mask. If they're medically unable to wear a mask, they will be seated in a separate room and separate area where at least 12 feet of spacing will be provided for those town meeting members who are unable to wear a mask. Stationed throughout the floor of town meeting, all seating arrangements will be at least 6 feet on center apart from each other. We will actually be occupying the seating arrangements that are used on a day-to-day basis by high school students who are eating their lunch there. That space will be completely cleaned and sanitized after the departure of high school students. We will then augment that setup with additional chairs through the Public Buildings Department. We will again utilize standing microphones. Individuals will be asked to come to the microphone, which will be appropriately spaced. We will have hand sanitizer throughout and the ground, so every individual can do that after they check in. If weather permits, check-in will occur outside of the building to allow for queuing individuals at a safe distance, and then immediate access in. Individuals were requested to come in the main entrance of the field house, not the main entrance of the high school. We will, to the extent possible, weather permitting and all other environmental factors permitting, including mosquitoes, try to keep the doors open to maximize airflow, but the air filtration system that does supply that does provide sufficient air turnover for an event of up to 250 people, which we will have there. So these are, again, the same air filters and conditions that we have our high school students in on a day-to-day basis. We're taking these additional precautions to have everyone wear masks and other hand sanitizer, et cetera, just like we did. And very confident and proud of the way town meeting members conducted themselves at the annual town meeting in May. And just like the annual town meeting in May, we've done a number of videos for individuals to watch in advance of the meeting about the single article that we are presenting on. We will have a much abbreviated presentation in consideration of the size of this request, but all staff members and the building committee will stand ready to answer any questions that town meeting members have in order for them to make the most informed vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So based on that, that explanation, but also just knowing that the airflow and the study that's been done on our airflow system in our schools makes me feel confident that 81 is I think a safe enough number. I think enough people will feel comfortable coming out for a short duration town meeting like this. While I assume there will be plenty of debate and discussion, I can't see this going for more than an hour and a half. And I feel comfortable with 81 being able to conduct the business of the town and also account for those people that might not feel comfortable coming out for an indoor setting. And I also know that Mr. Mizikar had mentioned on a previous occasion that only town staff that are related to this particular project will be required to attend the town meeting. So that also reduces the number of people that would be required to attend. Mr. Mena, before we move on to the public hearing portion of this, did you want to share your thoughts on the 81 number?
Sure, Madam Chair. I've thought about it, had previous to tonight, had several discussions about the proposed reduction to by 1/3 due to the fact that things worked out so well at the annual town meeting, both in terms of the attendance as well as the spacing inside, under the tent that day, and listening to the descriptions of how the seats will be laid out inside the field house. The fact that it's guaranteed to be a cooler day than would have been on August 8th, and the fact that we can, I think, legitimately expect a lower turnout for the special than we had at the annual town meeting. I'm satisfied that reducing the quorum to 81 is a good decision by the Board of Selectmen. So after consultation, you have my approval to reduce the number to 81.
Okay, so this is a
As
public
required by-
hearing. Thank you, Mr. Mena. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here, a member of the public wishing to be heard? Again, you'll need to use *6 to unmute your phone. Okay, I'm not immediately seeing or hearing anyone. And when I look at this list, I recognize just about every number on the call. So just one more time, you would have to use *6 if you're a member of the public and you would like to participate in the public hearing. All right, then if there is no one from the public, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Samia,
Aye.
myself, aye. Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Is there any other discussion that the board would like to have before we take a vote? Okay, then I'll take a motion to reduce the quorum by 1/3, requiring 81 town meeting members for the special town meeting scheduled for Tuesday, September 29th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Samia,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
myself, aye. So Mr. Mena, if you've mentioned that you are in favor, so if you would just go ahead and take it from here and issue the appropriate notification regarding the reduction of quorum.
Okay, I will. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
See you then.
Okay, that brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 7. It's a 7:10 p.m. joint meeting with the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee, Tecton Architects, and CMS Inc. for an update on the Police and Municipal Campus feasibility study in preparation for the September 29th, 2020 special town meeting. So I will turn that over to you, Mr. Mizikar, and the Building Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will have Building Committee Chairman, Mr. Patrick Pitney, make a few introductory comments. We know that the board had previously received a detailed update on both the existing conditions and very early conceptual design. So we'll provide a brief update on that and then spend about 10 minutes on the financial impacts of this project, which has not been presented to this board. So through you, if we could have Mr. Pitney provide a brief introduction, then we'll get rolling and I'll start sharing my screen.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar, and good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Board of Selectmen. I'd like to thank you for inviting us to this meeting this evening to provide an update to you. Before we get into the details of the update, I would just like to take a moment for the public that may be listening out there to introduce the committee. I know you're familiar with everybody, but if there's anybody out there not listening or who's listening and is hearing us for the first time, I'd just like them to be aware of all members of the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee. So my name is Patrick Pitney. I'm an at-large member, and I'm humbled and honored to be chairman of this hardworking, talented group. And it's really been a learning experience and something that's been very gratifying up to this point. Joining me on the committee are from the Board of Selectmen, Mo DiPaolo, who is also serving as vice chair. We also have on the committee Kristen Lass from the town manager's office, Keith Baldinger from Public Buildings, Holly Luke, who is director of Council on Aging, Chief Kevin Anderson, chief of police, Justine Snyder, who is an at-large member, Patrick Collins, the assistant superintendent for finance and operations of the Shrewsbury Public Schools, and Joseph Morrow, who is also an at-large member. The building committee has met several times over the last few months, and we've been considering the feasibility, design, and cost of the entire campus project, including the police station, town hall, and the senior center. Our more recent efforts have been the emphasis on the police building committee, and we have construction monitoring services and Tecton architects here this evening to provide you with the most recent update and your consideration for recommending this going forward for the special town meeting. So with that, I will turn it back to Mr. Mizikar, who I think will then hand it over to the architects and the project's owner's project manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pitney. As I previously mentioned, we will walk through a brief overview of the existing conditions and statement of need for the police station, view the updated conceptual drawings and renderings for the building, and then I'll review details along with Chief Anderson about the smaller aspect of this project, which is the public safety radio communication system, which will benefit a number of departments, including the Shrewsbury Fire Department. And I'll wrap things up with a financial review of what a borrowing could look like for this project. So I will turn it over to Mr. Matt Salad of Tecton Architects and Chief Kevin Anderson of the Shrewsbury Police Department to review the statement of need and existing conditions.
Matt, do you want me to start off?
That'd be great, yeah.
Okay. Chief Anderson here. Just a little overview of the building itself. The original building was built in 1971. It was approximately 9,000 square feet. In 1996, we added approximately 8,000 square feet, bringing the building size just over 17,000 square feet. It's 2 stories. It's on a slab. And what we did when we added in 1996, we added 2 additional garage bays. We turned the original garage bays into offices and also the chief's office. We also added a hallway that connected a new booking area to a cell block area. We also added a second floor over the garage, which currently the evidence and property room is located. Other than that, the rest of the building wasn't changed too much. Just a little bit of the dispatch area was expanded on just by a few feet. Just looking at the pictures here, the first picture on the right, that's the lobby. That lobby, it has a lot of activity in that lobby on a daily basis. There could be somebody coming in for a police report. There could be someone going to file their children missing, or we could have sex offender registering at in that area. And also, that's the same area that we release prisoners. We don't have a designated space where we release prisoners. We release them in the lobby. So that creates a challenge for the department, having all those people interact there in such a small space. That becomes an issue. On the left there, that's the clerk's office. Currently, the clerk's office is not public access. In order to get to that clerk's office, you have to be allowed in by dispatch. An ideal situation would be for that clerk's office to have public access right off the lobby. The photo on the bottom right is the detective bureau. That area is the second floor of the building, and that wasn't changed in 1996. So that actually is the same space from 1971. Currently, there's 5 detectives. They work right in that room, right in the middle. And that creates a challenge when they're talking to a witness or they're working on a case. They may be several detectives up there, and it's difficult to do your work. Matt, I don't know if you want to go over the cell block area.
Sure. Some of the challenges with the existing police station is that being constructed nearly 50 years ago, with some minor renovations and additions, it really doesn't meet standards and current codes and regulations for a public safety facility. Structural requirements have changed, and the building really needs to be significantly more robust to withstand any natural disaster, to make sure that this building is operational during the worst of times, so that the officers inside and dispatchers can respond to the needs of the community. The cell area is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Health, and it currently doesn't meet those standards as well. And there's a lot of challenges that result in that, in terms of officer safety and prisoner safety because of those issues. A lot of those guidelines are in reducing self-harm to the detainees. The first 24 hours of incarceration are when you're most likely to have somebody do self-harm to oneself, and really making sure that this part of the building is secure and safe to prevent that is very critical. Additionally, the prisoner processing area is a very tight, cramped space. There's times where the officers will be bringing in multiple arrests, and having all those people in this confined space with all the sharp edges during the intake process becomes a challenge for the officers, and is again also a safety concern for both officers and the prisoners.
Also, Matt, can I just comment real quick on that booking area?
Yep.
The booking area, it's hard to see in that photo, but there's a lot of sharp edges around the countertop. Also, you can't see there's 2 windows. There really shouldn't be any windows within a booking area. God forbid a person became violent, that could be an issue. Somebody could get hurt. Currently, we have plexiglass on the windows, but you could still get hurt if something happened within that booking area. The other issue there is the booking area to get to the locked facility is a hallway. It's the same hallway that the officers use, staff use, and also it could be civilians using that coming in and out of the building. So ideally, that would be adjacent to the booking area. That way, if you had to monitor an individual prisoner, you could do that right from the booking area.
Some of the other challenges that the department faces is they've outgrown a number of spaces. What you're looking at here is some of the record storage and evidence storage throughout the building, and regulations have changed over time, and that requires a lot of this evidentiary material to be stored for much longer periods of time, and that tends to accumulate. And where this should be in a secure and controlled environment, these are sort of pushed off to the attic because there's just nowhere else in the building to really store this material. So we really want to make sure that this is in a better spot to make sure we're maintaining that evidence.
The upper right, that's one of 2 workstations within the department. We have 2 workstations for a 34 patrol officer. That's also in a mail room, and it was originally a utility closet that was converted into a mail room. It's very difficult for officers to conduct their work when they have other officers coming in and they're going over their shoulder to retrieve their mail. In the second workstation, that's inside our roll call room / lunch room / training room. And that training room is insufficient. It has 8 seats. In the standards, the chief of police standards is a 40-seat training room. The lockers on the left, that's the male locker room. We have currently male lockers for 50 male employees. So we don't have enough lockers for the amount of male employees we have. Also, we have 6 lockers in the female locker room for 1 female officer. That could be a challenge as the department becomes more diverse. That wouldn't be able to accommodate the additional female officers that we would look to expand to.
In the bottom right is, oh, sorry, Chief, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you want to speak about the lockers and how they're built in this space.
I think I'll save that. I just want to touch base real quick on dispatch. You can imagine that a lot of technology has changed over the past 50 years since the building was constructed, and this dispatching center is really the hub where all emergency communications for the town are coming in and out of. Currently, this houses just emergency communications for the police department. There is a desire to combine EMS and all the emergency services into a single emergency communications center. That way there's better coordination across all of your emergency services. Making that sort of adjustment and bringing all that technology into one 50-year-old space is quite a challenge, and it really should be designed for the technology of today and allow for the flexibility for future growth and expansion as technology changes over the coming decades. So now we're going to just touch base a little bit on the conceptual design. We've presented this to you in the past, but we've updated some of the graphics, and we further developed the design in conjunction with the police department and the building committee. Pardon the dogs. This is an overview of the aerial of the campus. And just some of the main points to highlight here is the new building is situated just to the west of where the existing police station is. This affords us the advantage of being able to maintain and operate within the existing police station while the new one is constructed. So there won't be any disruption in service during the construction of this project. Additionally, as you can imagine, and anytime anybody's visiting Town Hall, the parking spaces are pretty cramped. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of people on site. So we wanted to make sure that we were separating out the police personnel parking and giving them their own parking lot and separate entrance so that they can respond in an emergency without having to have interference with the public. Next slide. So this is the exterior elevation at the front entry facing Town Hall. And I just wanted to point out that what we were trying to do with this is really reflect the character of the campus and complement the architecture of Town Hall. The idea of the architecture of this police station is really to frame the campus and complement it and provide a unifying architecture between all of the buildings. Additionally, you notice that a lot of the windows are raised up above the ground level, and that's a safety feature for the officers and occupants inside the police station in case anybody wanted to do harm. We've also have floor planners at the front of the building, and those help bring down the scale and mass of it. But really, it's about enhancing the architecture of the campus and reflecting the Town Hall with some of the same roof lines, eave heights, and a lot of the materials. This is the south elevation facing the street. Again, bringing a lot of that articulation around. This is the rear elevation. This is where the garages and sally port are. This is the main officer's entrance off of their parking lot. And then around to the north, to the east side of this elevation to the left, that's where the training room is on the lower level. That'll be used for both the public and the officers. And off to the right, that's where the fitness and training area is, where officers will have several different types of training opportunities that you aren't able to have in the current stations, such as de-escalation tactics and real world training that really prepare the officers for the 21st century policing. This is a quick massing study that we put together, demonstrating the scale of the new police station against the Council on Aging Senior Center in the Town Hall. And we really wanted to show that the massing is larger than what it is currently, but it really doesn't take away from the Town Hall and really does a nice job of framing the campus and providing a border and unifying that architecture. And this is a perspective rendering of what we would envision the front entry looking. Again, reflecting some of the architecture of Town Hall, but really creating a safe and inviting environment to encourage the public to interact with this building and inviting them in so that there's more one-on-one interaction between the public and the police department. These are some town-specific requirements that we went through in working with the building committee and with the police department. These are specialized spaces that aren't in every police department, but they are part of this program. First line there is a couple of public use conference rooms. These are adjacent to the main lobby, and these aren't conference rooms just for the police to use. These are for the public at large and for town employees to use. And this is to offset a deficiency town-wide in public buildings. We're also creating a 311 call center. So this is a non-emergency call line that would supplement the dispatchers so that they can focus on emergency calls where informational calls can go to a separate call center. There's also a traffic division. One of the things with the new department in this design is that every place sort of has its home within the building. Currently, like the group has shown, there's 2 workstations for this entire department and all the staff to use. And that really creates a lack of efficiency. So part of the program now is giving these departments each their home, because we're moving from more of an arrest model of 50 years ago to more of a service model. And that really creates the need for individual space for the public to interact with the police as well. There's also a services division. This is a group of staff that are sort of dispersed throughout the existing station. This deals with a lot of internal police matters. The FATS, or Firearm Training Simulator, and the de-escalation training space is part of the fitness and training room. And this is really to give on-demand education and training to the officers in real time. Currently, they do this offsite twice a year. By having dedicated space to it on site, they're able to do it whenever they need to, weekly, on a daily basis, and they can invite other departments and the public in to participate in some of these activities. You also have an indoor parking garage for 8 cruisers. You have this currently with the existing station, and we also have future growth space to allow for the expansion of a department sort of that may be developed in the future. It's much less expensive to fit this space out now rather than 20 years from now have a costly renovation or addition to the building.
Thank you, Matt. And Chief, we appreciate that overview. I'll take a couple minutes along with Chief Anderson to talk about the public safety radio system, which is a component to this borrowing authorization request that we are placing before town meeting. Just briefly, the current system that we are utilizing is standalone for police and fire, and then other aspects of the town use their own radio system. And the goal is to unify through digital technology all aspects of the town, including DPW and Selco, that utilize public safety radios. The current system was commissioned in the mid-1990s. As everyone knows, we certainly have advanced very much so in technology, not only with physical devices, but the airspace that we communicate and utilize for this type of communications. This system has reached or is beyond the end of its useful life. And we've actually struggled recently to be able to find replacement parts to keep the system up and running. We've been thinking about integrating this system system request into a police station request for a number of years. Both former Chief Hester and Chief Vona of the Shrewsbury Fire Department presented the public safety radio system in my initial meetings with them as I came on board in 2017. I think in some ways, folks may be hearing about this for the first time because we're a victim of our own success and that we secured state grant funding through the fiscal year 2019 state budget process to cover the cost of feasibility study for the system. It's important to partner, I think, less tangible aspects or projects just like this public safety radio communication system with a larger project like the police station. Often when they stand alone, they're difficult for residents to see the value and understand the real need for them. So we think this is a great bundling, and it provides significant efficiencies when we do things like access the bond market and talk about the comprehensive replacement of a radio system. So this system will not be impacted by the timeline of the development of the police station, but it will certainly complement it and be ready for the new technology to be installed. So if I could just have Chief Anderson talk a little bit about those specific challenges that the department and other departments have with the current system, and then how the new system will work.
Sure. The system that we're looking to upgrade to would be what they call a digital trunked P25 public safety compliance system. It would address several safety concerns and coverage issue we face in the current system. The current system, there are areas in town that we can't hear the officers and the officers can't hear dispatch. Obviously, that's a public safety issue. Moving forward, we would go from an analog system, which is very outdated, to a digital system that would make the communications clearer. The officers would be able to hear other officers throughout the town. And a good addition to this is we would be able to communicate with other surrounding towns much better as well. So what we're looking to do is replace all radio infrastructure. That's including radios, wiring, controllers, and we'd like to combine all the departments onto one system. Currently, the fire department, the police department, Celco, and the DPW, they use all separate systems. This would combine them all together where we would have a better communication and it would lead to a better, faster response to emergencies and also have a better coordination of our public safety personnel. Couple features, we would have operational channels for use when required. We would move to a more organized frequency band with less chances for interference. And also the detectives within our department could utilize their own channels, as well as the fire department. When they're on a scene, they could utilize their own channel, and police could do the same if they're on a scene and just wanted to be police only. So the system would benefit the town and the entire town, not just police and fire. So I think it's a great way to go.
Thank you, Chief. I will now move into the project financials for both the police station and the public safety radio system and talk about the town's existing debt service, borrowing analysis, and finally drill down into some tax-related impacts for a project like this. First, a very high-level summary. As we've mentioned before, this is an investment in the community that is targeted to last 50 years or more. Just like the existing station, which was constructed in 1972 for a cost of less than $400,000. So the total cost projected for both the physical construction and related design, furniture, fixtures, and equipment costs for this project is $36.9 million for the police station itself. And then the public safety radio communication system is estimated to cost around $5 million. The total project cost is just shy of $42 million. Now, we are in the conceptual design phases, and it is the goal and direction of the building committee to ensure that we set a reasonable budget that town meeting members and voters can rely upon. But just like previous building committees, this building committee is committed to not exceeding that cost and ensuring we do everything we can as we further mature the design with the design team and then manage the project throughout its life of construction to make sure we come in on budget and on time. And I'll just note that the bar for other building committees have been set very high. The Beal building project is going well. It's currently under budget and on schedule. So I know the building committee for this project would strive to do the same thing. So we'll be asking for a $42 million total borrowing authorization. Take a couple seconds just to talk about estimated ongoing operating cost changes based upon the first year of operations. Through a very preliminary analysis without having final mechanical systems put in place, we know we're going to work to the most energy efficient building that we can as a green community designation by the Commonwealth. We see a reasonable estimate to increase utility costs about $60,000 a year net, so reducing the existing costs and then adding in the additional cost for the new station. And then a net annual change in custodial and cleaning services across the municipal campus. So not just for this building, but looking at all the buildings and the changes that we would need to make, would see about an annual increase of about $5,000. And that is really founded through a combination of reduction in contract cleaners during the weekdays and an increase in full-time custodial staffing within the police station itself. From those hard cost estimates for the capital investment of $42 million that we're going to make, we propose to follow the tried and true Shrewsbury debt service model with a 20-year term using equal principal payments throughout the duration of the term, which results in declining debt service as the amount of interest that we pay on an annual basis goes down and down. As we bring this project on board and debt comes to fruition, we will have the benefit of other capital projects, interest going down, and actually retiring some significant projects like the land acquisition from the credit union to facilitate the library and the 20-year-old high school will be paid off in fiscal year 22. So those two projects will be rolling off the books by the time we want to introduce this new debt on. We are receiving strong indications from both the market and our financial advisors that we'd be wise to do a full borrowing in the first part of fiscal year or calendar year 21. The interest rate estimate that we're using at this time is 1.9%. I can tell you that the city of Quincy recently accessed the market for a $20 million 20-year note. They are a AA+ rated community, so one credit rating below ours, and they received a 1.3% interest rate for that 20-year borrowing. It doesn't get much closer to free money than that, especially in the municipal bond market. We are extremely excited to see a 2.3% interest rate for the Beal project, and talking up to an entire percent below that is kind of hard to believe, but we're fortunate to be in that situation. So again, it's a $42 million borrowing request. Given the fact that Selco benefits from a part of the public safety radio system, they will pay their fair share of the cost. So the tax rate supported aspect of this project will not exceed $41.25 million. If we look at those favorable interest rates using a 1.9% interest rate over the entire 20-year term, it's about $8.2 million interest. An alternative scenario would be to do a phased, more conventional borrowing throughout the term of the construction. However, doing that and assuming modest increases between 0.25% and 0.5% between those individual borrowings increases the total interest cost by about $1.3 million over the 20 years. So those low interest rates are really beneficial to us, and it makes this project even more valuable and reasonable. Here's the entire debt service schedule, over $2 million in principal each year and declining interest, which frees up the tax rate every year as we move forward with the payment plan for this project. The projected debt service, what I've done on this slide in fiscal year 22, you'll see kind of in the middle of the screen what our debt service schedule would be required regardless of action is taken on this project. There at the bottom of the screen is the net impact of the new borrowing for the police station and public safety radio system, increasing the total projected debt service for fiscal year 22 up to $10.5 million in total. Simple correlation on the tax rate. Right now the tax rate is $12.47, $1.20 of that. Actually $1.25 in fiscal year 21 goes towards debt service. 5 cents of that will roll off as we go into fiscal year 22, which will reduce the impact of the borrowing for the police station project, pushing the total debt service requirements of the tax rate up to $1.64. Trying to take it really home for everyone, we've provided an analysis of percentage of single family homes by total number. You'll see on the left-hand side to correlate this chart. For instance, the second line, 50% of the homes are valued at $441,200 or less within the community. So we're very confident and can calculate that over 50% of the homes in the community will pay less than $195 a year for the gross debt service for this project. No one really talks about any new payment plans in terms of years when they think about it. We think about cell phone bills, mortgages, and and car payments on a monthly basis. So again, more than 50% of the homes are looking at about a $16 per month increase for fiscal year 22 and 23. And then you see debt service declines over time because of our declining debt service schedule. This one final slide, as I previously mentioned, as we've done in the past, payments decrease over time. That provides more room within the tax rate to do projects without having a complete gross impact on the tax rate. So as those 5 cents from those other projects that are being retired between fiscal year 2021 and 22 goes away, it will actually provide a net impact on the tax bill for more than 50% of the homes of $173 or less. So about $20 savings because of that proven approach that we use when we issue debt within the community. So I know we threw a lot of information at you in the last half hour. We appreciate the board's time. I know the building committee, myself and the design team stands ready to answer any questions that the board may have about this project. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a very detailed presentation. Lots of really important information for the community ahead of the special town meeting. Are there any questions from the board right now? Okay. Not seeing any, so I will go ahead and ask a couple of the questions that I have. I can't tell if Mr. DePaolo is trying to ask a question or not. No. Good. So one of the questions that I had is actually for the chief. Chief Anderson, when you talk about the public safety radio communication system and how it's being utilized by police, fire, Celco, and DPW, I think I had heard that there's challenges with dead spots in town. How does that impact an officer that's on a call and their ability to communicate with, let's say, dispatch or other officers who might be providing backup or assistance?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Well, it's a public safety issue. A lot of times if we don't hear them, we'll have to send other officers to locations in the town where we think they were last, or we have to try to call them on their cell phone. And that could take 2 to 3 minutes, but that could be 2 to 3 minutes. That's very critical. So that we try to locate them best we can based on where they were last. And then we try to come on that cell phone, or we send officers to that location.
So what are some of the locations? Are we talking like just a couple of spots in town, or is it a more widespread situation where there's not reception?
Well, so I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. I'm no radio expert by any means. The system we use now, it gets interfered with the contour of the I guess the earth. So if it goes in an area that it can't go over, that's when it gets dead. So if you're in a valley, or like one of our areas that is always issue is Route 20 down by Northborough, and then also Route 20 by Worcester. But there's several spots that are very specific in town that, on a regular basis, they're dead spots. Also, there's buildings in town that are dead spots as well. And this system will help communications within buildings, like Home Depot or some warehouses in town where there's dead spots when you're inside.
So that would also be an issue for firefighters if they were to be inside fighting a fire, being able to communicate with people on the outside, giving instructions.
Exactly. So how it works now is it goes to a transfer, and then it gets sent out, and it tries to locate the radio. The new system, it's called a trunked system. So there'll be 3 locations throughout the town that it will go to that tower, and that new system is able to recognize what radio that transmission needs to go to. That's why we can combine all the departments at the same time. So actually you can all be talking at the same time, but talking to one another, if that makes sense.
So how old is the current radio system?
Well, I think we upgrade to a narrowband system on a grant. I want to say, and I actually wrote that grant, it was probably 20 years ago, but I don't know the exact time frame on that.
20 years is still, I mean, that's some very old technology. My cell phone from 20 years ago, I think, was in a bag. So if I think of it that way, I don't know that I want my first responders using 20-year-old technology that's difficult to repair and not reliable in an emergency situation. To me, that seems like a very critical need for not only the residents, but also for the first responders.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Madam Chairman.
Yep. We'll take Mr. LeBeau first and then Mr. DiPaolo.
Madam Chairman, and first, excellent presentation, and I apologize in advance if I'm asking a question. There was so much material that was already covered, but I'm looking at, and granted, this is probably not the most critical question, but I'm trying to understand exactly where the building sits, and there is a site plan rendering, I think. But I'm wondering, is there anything that has the footprint of this new construction and how it relates to the existing building?
I believe Matt does. I can also speak on that, John, just in general terms, if you want me to try to explain where it is.
Sure, but certainly I would like to see a graphic at some point in time. Certainly not, it doesn't need to be tonight, but yeah, I'd love to hear a description of it, but then I'd like to see it.
Okay, I believe Matt does have that somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I'll give a little explanation. So if you're looking at the police station, it's going to be to the west of the police station. So if you're looking at in 1996, we added 2 garage bays. If you look about 15 feet off of that, that's where the new police station is going to be. Was it 50 feet, Matt?
Yeah, it's between 50 and 60 feet.
Okay. Sorry, John. It's 50 feet off the rear of that new garage that was built in 1996, and that would be the front station. And then when that's completed, the building would be taken down, and that's where that parking lot would be. It'd be like some green space that would go over to the town hall.
I see. Okay.
Madam Chair, if you permit me, I could share my screen and show a site plan that shows this.
Sure, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's a little faint, but this dashed line here, that's the outline of the existing police station. And then this red dash line here, that's the existing outline of the parking lot and drive out to Maple Avenue. So this is about that 50 or 60 feet difference between the new station and the existing. And we're a little constrained because this blue area here, there's wetlands that we had surveyed and flagged, which sort of brought us, one, allowing this to maintain an operation where we built and respecting the wetlands is what sort of led us to this location, keeping the main entrance sort of on axis with the main drive here as well.
Okay, this was very helpful. Thank you. Could we get this document sent to us? Could you send it to the office if they don't have it, or the committee, and let them get it to us, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. The only other thing I'd like to say, Madam Chairman, is we've been talking about radios and repeaters for about as long as I've been on the board. So I think it sounds like it's time for the 21st century solution, and I think this obviously is the right time to do it.
Mr. DiPaolo, I think you wanted to ask a question or make a comment next.
Actually, Madam Chairman, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. I had heard some questions when I was out in the public of why this project took so long to come to fruition. And I just want to remind the residents what we've been doing since about 1995 with the Floral Street School. We've built 4 new schools, 1 major renovation, 2 new fire stations, 1 major renovation, the library, and also we did the renovation on the police station around 1996, 97. The fire station's got, obviously the schools were built because we had a growing school population. A lot of the timing was dictated by when the money was available. The same for the library. The fire station timing was driven by the fact that our ladder truck was beyond its useful life, and the new ladder truck wouldn't fit in any of the buildings. So there were circumstances and just situations where things got done according to when money was available and when there was a very immediate need, particularly with the ladder truck. The police station, unfortunately, did have to wait. But when you look at the work that we've done over 25 years, we finally gotten to the point where we're in a spot where we can slot in the police station, slot in that new radio system. And you know, it may have taken a long time, but I think it's reasonable to ask the question if you don't know what the building program was here over the past 25 years. But to ask the question in a way it's like somebody failed, I think misses the point. And the point right now is we have an opportunity to build a police station at very favorable interest rates. And we should be looking forward and getting this done and not looking to criticize people or past administrations for not getting to this sooner. It's unfortunate, but with this many projects, it happened. And we're here now, and I think we should all be thinking about moving forward and supporting the police and getting this new station built. So that's all I really have to say. But I think it's important that people realize that we can only do so much at once. So thank you.
Mr. DiPaolo, that's a really good point. And I think just to just further explain that projects that were prioritized before the police station were time sensitive in terms of coming with grant money from the state and leveraging that money in a way that would make our tax dollars go farther. And that's always been the priority of this board and past boards, is to be respectful of the taxpayers and make the most of taxpayer dollars. And we don't ask for projects that we think are wants, we ask for projects that we know are needs. And I believe that this is a need and that the time is completely right. I agree with you 100% to move forward with this. We've passed the point of being able to put a short-term solution on this building. And quite honestly, the state of the public safety radio communication system is just, it's just unacceptable. It's definitely time to stop talking about it and start making some long-term improvements and finding solutions. Does anyone else have any comments before we close this out?
Madam Chair,
Madam.
I just realized as you were speaking, we also built the senior center. So we've been very busy for the past 25 years. Sorry, Mr. LeBeau.
Madam, no,
Mr.
that's
LeBeau.
okay.
Go ahead.
I mean, Madam Chairman, I sort of went to the micro rather than the macro when I was speaking about the radio system. But I just want to say this is the time to do this. The list never ends. The list constantly gets things added to it, and the board makes determinations on priority order, as others have stated, to take advantage of matching monies that might come to us. And now it's time for the police station. Had the police station been built by now, we probably wouldn't have a school or a library. I mean, it simply would have been something else in its place. So if we get this project through, as I think we need to do, and certainly hope the voters agree, we'll move on to the next project. I mean, it never ends. The only way to keep up our facilities is to be constantly reviewing their condition, maintaining them as best we can, and when they come to the end of their useful lives, we either reno or replace. So now it's time for the police station. Would we wish it was sooner? Absolutely. But that's the reality of budgetary management, and I think the board's tried to do that in a very responsible manner over the years and is continuing to try to do so now. Thanks.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Samia.
Just a quick question, and it's sort of a broad question, but in terms of this building itself, how does it address the next, say, 40 or 50 years? We have a great track record in the community, as with this building. We get a long, useful life out of our buildings. But how flexible, I think we've seen the role that the police play in our daily lives has grown tremendously, that wear many hats. And is there flexibility in this building if policing changes? Is there that ability to move the building around a little bit? I know there's that free space that's there, but how flexible is the infrastructure to address as community needs change, as our community grows, as more police men and women are needed? How flexible is the building to address all of those needs over the next 20, 30, 40 years? Thank you.
I think I can address this. That's a great question. And there's quite a few answers to that, because there's not a magic bullet to solve that problem. One of the issues with police stations in the past is there wasn't a lot of diversity in the departments. There was a lot of little boxes, and they were all block walls, heavy construction, and you couldn't just rip them out, replace them, and reconfigure a lot of the spaces as you could today. Additionally, nobody could have anticipated the way that technology has changed over the past 50 years. So now that we can recognize some of those things, we can build that into the architecture a little bit more. This is going to be a steel frame building, so a lot of the walls and partitions and things like that can be modified in the future. We've also put projections together to anticipate the growth over the next 30 to 50 years of staff sizing. So understanding the trends of calls for service, department growth, and population, we've sort of built that into the formula, so that from day one, if one department or one division of the police staff has to hire one or two other individuals, that room is already built into it. The dispatch center, that's sort of right in the middle of the entire building, and that's where the most change, some of the most changes has occurred over the past. And one of the ways that we've sort of solved that ability for change and growth is that we're actually depressing the slab for that entire portion of the building and putting raised access flooring in. So it's actually designed sort of like a data center. So say there's the need for more servers, more conduit, more cabling between the communications equipment area and dispatch, more dispatch CT. That flexibility is built in, where you're not ripping down walls, you're not tearing out ceilings, you're just running cable through conduit and making those adjustments. Let me try to think of. Additionally, the way that the locker rooms are designed currently. So right now in your station, the female and male locker rooms are across the hall from each other, and they're landlocked. You can't really make any changes. The chief was saying, what if, as diversity changes in the department and we hire more female officers, we don't really have the room for them to have their own space. So what we do is we sort of put those right next to each other in the same block. And it does two things for us. One, it's efficient because now we have all of our plumbing chases are combined into the same area. So there's an upfront savings. If the staffing changes and the diversity changes, and now you have 30% female officers to 70% male officers instead of 5%. Now it's a matter of just shifting the wall between those two spaces and then moving lockers over. So that sort of flexibility is built in. We have additional areas for the increased demand in evidentiary storage in those materials. We actually have 2 evidence rooms to accommodate that. So we're not going to be cramming this into the We have a lot of the second floor is built with a flat roof over a lot of the other spaces, and we have that steel structure, and it's built to a higher standard than all of the other public buildings are going to be. We can expand out into that roof area and grow the department size as we need to without adding footprint to the building. We can sort of add within the existing walls that we have currently. I can go on and on about this. Is there any other particular things you have questions on?
No, thank you. I think it's just really smart, and I like the fact, and I know this came up during the finance committee about some space that's doesn't have a purpose yet, but I think it's smart to build it now to also have that flexibility going forward. I think that it's just really smart to do it. The building's going to be quick and nimble, will allow the chief to address his needs today and going forward for years to come. So I think it's really smart construction. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comments from the board members, I'd like to thank the members of the building committee for all of their time that they've put in. I know it's been a lot of meetings that you've had in a short period of time to get us to this point. I very much appreciate all of the work of the architects and the project manager and everyone who is involved in bringing us to this point. I think we have a very solid, well thought out project to bring before a town meeting next week. And I look forward to seeing the presentation and hearing what town meeting has to say about it. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank you and the rest of the board for having us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to new business. Item number 8 is to review and act on a recommendation for the September 29th, 2020 special town meeting. So, back. Mr. Mizikar, do you have something about that?
So, Madam Chair, this is just the board's opportunity to vote to recommend Article 1
Okay.
For the town meeting.
Thank you. I was in the presentation still and didn't get back over. So I will take a motion then to recommend Article 1.
So moved.
Second.
All right, is there any further discussion about Article 1 for the special town meeting warrant? Okay, I'm not seeing anything, so we'll take a vote. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Okay, so that passes unanimously. Item number 9, review and act to authorize the chair to sign the 2020 Department of Energy Resources Green Communities Division competitive grant contract documents. And I believe this is for the grant that we discussed at our last meeting that Mr. Baldinger applied for and was awarded, which is going to be money for the Parker Road Preschool rooftop unit replacement, LED lighting at the high school field house, in the high school, at the Floral Street School, at the Oak Middle School, and then a building operator certification training for, I believe Mr. Baldinger would take that training. So this is, we're eligible for this because we are a green community. It's a really great opportunity for us to leverage those dollars. So I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Just to the town manager through you, just, do we know if the state's appropriated this money already? There was language in the terms and conditions giving the state a little wiggle room if the money hasn't been appropriated. Has this money already been appropriated to fund these grants?
I believe the answer is yes. These funds are normally appropriated through environmental bond bill, which is a multi-year bill, and it would have come up for a multi-year program in the prior cycle.
Okay. I was just asking the question based on what you were talking with the financial health of the Commonwealth going forward. So I was just curious. All right, thank you.
Okay.
And second, I think there was a motion, so sorry.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? Okay, Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Item number 10 is to review and act to authorize the chair to sign a disclosure by non-elected municipal employees of financial interest form as required by Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 19. to authorize the town manager to serve as a steering committee and board member on the West Suburban Health Group. I believe this is something we need to do yearly. Mr. Mizikar, if you could just give a little bit of an explanation for the public.
Sure. It has been determined at the state level, since I hold the position of chair of the steering committee and a board member on the West Suburban Health Group, which is a joint purchasing agency for health insurance. I do deliberate and vote on decisions with financial basis that impact my own personal finances since I received the health insurance. Things like co-payments and increases to premiums. However, they certainly do not just impact me. They impact not only everyone within the town of Shrewsbury, which is there's over 2,000 employees, and then all the other 11 communities in the West Suburban Health Group. So it's just a disclosure, and I'm asking the board for consideration to find no conflict and sign off on this and allow me to move forward, as has been the practice of every community since the initiation of the joint purchasing arrangement.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Oops.
Madam
Still
Chairman,
comfortable with this? Yep, Mr. LeBeau?
I move the board authorize the chair to sign the disclosure as the appointing authority.
Second.
Okay, no further discussion. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Item number 11 is to review and act on the reappointment of John Peralt, 21 Hunter Circle, to the Westboro Treatment Plant Board for a 3-year term to expire on September 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Seeing no further discussion, Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Okay, item number 12 is to review and act to appoint up to 25 members to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. You will remember this was a initiative that we have been working on since June. We advertised 4 letters of interest and then received quite a few. And I'm going to let Mr. Mizikar talk a bit about the process that the board participated in order to choose these people that we will be appointing this evening.
Thank you. So we have called a list that can be found in 2 locations that's on your drive that lists the 24 individuals that the board will have consideration for this evening. So just a reminder that the Board of Selectmen is charged with appointing 25 members, up to 25 members to the task force. Those members would complement and achieve the maximum number of 30 individuals identified in the charge for the task force. As indicated on the agenda, 31 individuals applied for consideration prior to the project deadline. In order to facilitate this very detailed process and in accordance with the open meeting law, board members each identified their individual candidates that they would recommend for appointment and provide them directly to myself and Alex Martinez within your office. Every time a candidate was selected by an individual board member, they were given 1 point as the 1 vote. And we've identified 24 candidates that received a majority of board members supporting their appointment. So 24 candidates of the 31 received at least 3 votes of the Board of Selectmen. Again, these votes were all conducted individually by the board on their own, and that information was conveyed electronically to the office staff where we've assembled it. So this evening, we've identified the following 24 individuals that are included in your drive for appointment. And I will apologize in advance for any names that I do not get properly pronounced, but they are Kelly Joseph, Edolia Menbobme, Donna Jarrell, Elizabeth Hilton, Jean Budenhagen, Helene Nguyen, Janine Sands, Lenora Ryan, Louise Garon, Richard Petrucci, Rup Yoit Carr, Alan Jarrell, Juan Acosta, Marion Burkatu, Mara Egan, Mia Alvarez Lombardi, Malind Kanatkar, Navit Singh, Noor Ali, Paula Collins, Priya Rathnam, Rajesh Velagupti, Gaputi, Ruth Fibo, and Shima Khan. So board members, those are the 24 individuals that received at least 3 board members voting for their candidacy. We'd be happy to further detail any questions that you have as a result of your contributions and recommendations for the 31 candidates that applied prior to the deadline.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. LeBeau.
Madam Chairman, to you, to the manager, either I just fell asleep at the switch, but I thought you went from Rajesh Velagapudi to Ruth Fibo. Are there not some folks on this list that you just sent us? Did I just miss it?
No, I think you're reading the list of everyone that applied if you're reading what's on our agenda.
No, I'm reading Master Tally 000.
I think you're on a different list.
So Mr. LeBeau, within item 12 folder, within the subfolder candidate spreadsheets,
Yeah.
and then master, there's 2 tabs. One is all candidates, and that's the second tab, but the first tab on the left is candidates selected.
Got it. Okay. It's just in a different order, and perhaps I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the confusion on this.
No. Nope. We're good.
I think it's also it's important, I think, to note that part of the confusion is because we did not have, as board members, this list of who received the votes to be appointed to this committee until like 3 minutes before the meeting started, because that was in, keeping in with the open meeting law and making sure that we didn't have the information in advance. And so that's why we may seem like we have only seen this for the first time, because we are seeing this basically for the first time. Is there any other discussion about these appointments from anybody on the board?
Madam Chair,
Mr. DiPaolo?
I would just like to say that I think that this is a very diverse group on multiple levels, from ethnicity, education, family arrangement, just all the way down, life experience. And I really am happy that we were able to get such a diverse group of people, particularly when this was a diversity and equity and inclusion task force. I really applaud the people, everyone who applied, but certainly those that were voted in. I'm also very pleased with the outcome of the process, which I have been concerned about. But most of the people who were voted for tonight either got 5 votes or 4 votes of the board. Matter of fact, almost everyone, and then 1 got 3. I think that says something for the quality of the people and the effort that the board put in to try to make sure that we did the best we could to pick people. So I'm very pleased. I'm looking forward to the work that they do, and just glad that it's going to start. So thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. LeBeau?
Well, we started talking about this, I think, in June, if I'm not mistaken. And here it is, September 22nd. I think this has been a very methodical process. I think all members of the board put a lot of effort in it. I appreciate all the people who put time into contacting, expressing, throwing their hat in the ring, and explaining to us why we thought why we should appoint them. It was a difficult decision, to tell the truth, because as has been said, we had so many excellent candidates. But as Mr. DiPaolo said, the process, I think we were all a little unsure how, this process was going to go. It really, I think, worked out extremely well, and I share previous comments about the makeup of the task force, and look forward to the work it's going to do. And I think a lot of folks are going to be paying attention to these meetings. So time to get to work, Madam Chair. You've got a few things on your plate.
Sure do. We'll be starting with a swearing in of everyone who is newly appointed to this task force. So we definitely have our work to do.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Samia.
I will not repeat the comments by my colleagues, but I agree with those. The other couple of things that important takeaways, a lot of first-time people going out for this task force, which was great to see. I think the struggle that we have generally over the past few years, whether it's for town meeting or other boards, is not getting a lot of people to apply. So to see the excitement and real thought put behind each and every applicant was outstanding to see. And I want to thank everybody for all the candidates for taking the time and giving their heartfelt expression why they're doing this and what they want to do in furtherance of the charge. And I feel really good about the takeaway. There's a clear common goal with all of these people, not only the 24 who are on, or the 5 other board members, or 4 plus our designee you. They want to make Shrewsbury an even better place to live, but they're coming in with an objective lens, which is very important. So I'm excited about the work. I think it's going to be great to get that feedback, as well as we look at longer term planning to really let this inform where we're going as a community. So thank you.
All right, I know I breathe a very big sigh of relief knowing that we brought this over the finish line. And I know that the work of the task force is just beginning, but I feel like for us, this was very different from the work that we are used to doing and the issues that we're used to considering, and very much outside of the comfort zone at certain times. And I really am proud of how our board worked together to come up with a path forward to make this task force happen. For what some people may think was kind of a slow process, it's actually pretty quick to move us on this so quickly, I think, especially given the fact that we're meeting remotely and not really able to be together when we work on something that's so new to us. So I really do appreciate the efforts of the whole board. Thankful beyond words for the town manager's office for somehow managing this process of selecting 25 or 24 people to appoint to a committee, and also to everyone that applied. They certainly put time into their letters. It showed. I wish we could have taken everyone. However, that would be just an unwieldy number of people. So we'll move on with this. All right, so I believe we need to just vote to appoint them as one group. Is that correct? Okay. So I will look for a motion.
Madam Chairman,
Mhm.
I move the board appoint to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force the list of candidates on the spreadsheet provided by the manager's office of all individuals who received a majority vote by the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Mr. LeBeau.
Aye.
Mr. Samia.
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo.
Aye.
And myself, aye. All right, that brings us to correspondence. Item number 13, ZBA decision of August 24th, 2020 for Eugene Kuhn for a special permit for property located at 17 Arita Road. Item number 14 is a ZBA decision from August 24th, 2020 for Aquila Civicori for a special permit for property located at 22 Marietta Avenue, Unit 1. Item number 15 is a letter dated September 4th, 2020 from Shonda Green, Department of Communications and Cable regarding a license expiration notice. Item number 16, it's an email dated September 10th, 2020 from Hebert Berg of 3 Brentwood Drive regarding the need for pickleball courts. Item number 17 is an email dated September 11th, 2020 from David Madrand, 2 Boxford Drive regarding the police details. Mr. Madrand was asking why we need to have police details when there's work being done on roads. And I know that there is a very detailed reason for this, and it is specific to the state of Massachusetts. Mr. Mizikar, would you be able to provide some information and then a response, either you or the chief, to this gentleman so that he understands the reason why we have details?
Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely provide the details. Just generally, we do scrutinize the locations where we actually put a police officer out with a work crew, so it's just not a blanket. It depends on the particular conditions of the entire road work area where they're going to be working within any given time, or any given shift. And certainly I know it can be frustrating for residents if they drive by and see an officer talking with a crew member or something. That's just a single snapshot in their time of what could be an 8 or 10 hour day. So we'll certainly reach back out to the resident, try to understand the situation a little bit better and see if we need to make any improvements or address any situations that occurred that day. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Item number 18 is an email dated September 14th, 2020 from Mina Baum, 40 Holando Drive, regarding a pickleball town request. Item number 19 is a letter dated September 14th, 2020 from Sherry Brooks of 5 Tory Lane regarding pickleball courts in Shrewsbury. And just so that everyone in the public is aware, we do have the lines drawn for pickleball at the courts at Coolidge Street School, and we're just waiting for nets. And I'm not sure if the nets have come in yet, but I know that as soon as they are in, they will be installed. And pickleball can be played on a tennis court. It's just different lines that are painted and different nets that need to be switched out. So that will be available for residents to enjoy, hopefully before it gets too cold to play. Item number 20 is an email dated September 15th, 2020 from David Snowden, DPW Business Manager, regarding the C-Click Fix update. I was really excited to see that we have this app available now for residents to use. Mr. Mizikar, would you be able to explain a little bit more about it?
Sure. This is a mobile application for your cell phone that is a really quick way for residents to receive service and report challenges or issues that they see throughout the public works infrastructure. So right now we're focused on highway operations, but it will expand. There's a quick link to access the DPW customer service lines. And, it's just really trying to provide simple access and better customer service through our DPW department. So I have to thank Mr. Snowden, Mr. Howland for their leadership in, I think, instituting the first app that we have for the town of Shrewsbury.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. I downloaded it to my phone right away, and you can report any missed pickups for trash and recycling right there to the, it comes right up with the number, and you can just call right to Waste Management. So it certainly is very easy, and you can set your alerts so that you know if there's an issue right in your area. So I had a lot of fun with it. I commend Mr. Snowden for bringing us to this point. I look forward to seeing what else we can get on there. Item number 21 is an email dated September 15th, 2020 from Sanam Zaire of 8 Jamie Lane regarding a proclamation of Minority and Women-Owned Business Day. Having read this, I think that this would be an item that the task force would consider now that it's been formed. Item number 22 is a letter dated September 15th, 2020 from State Representative Hannah Kane to Janice Matthews, the Jan Companies, regarding 7 Boston Turnpike, which you'll know is as the Buca de Beppo site down by the lake near the bridge. This is the third letter that Representative Kane has sent, asking the company to please return the property to productive use. It's been vacant since 2014. Item number 23 is an email dated September 16th, 2020 from Gordon Hart, 20 Deerfield Road, regarding pickleball courts in Shrewsbury. And item number 24 is an email dated September 18th, 2020 from State Representative Hannah Kane regarding two perspectives on the FY21 budget outlook and timing. Neither perspective was really great. The state is still operating under an interim budget and waiting for certainty on the federal level for state and municipal financial assistance. Still waiting to finalize the FY21 budget and close out FY20, and the all-around picture is uncertain. So that brings us to the end of the agenda. Is there anything else to come before the board in open session? I'm not seeing anything, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Samia.
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Thank
Aye.
you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.